You ever find yourself sitting on a plane, thinking you've got the world all figured out, then suddenly life throws you into someone else's storm and nothing's ever the same after that? Yeah, that happened to Mule. Not to me exactly, but to a guy named Richard Harrington, who was used to running the show, until a night over the Atlantic when everything flipped upside down. Let me back up a Sesame Gene, a midnight flight, cabin lights dim, just the low hum of engines, everyone slipping into that weird limbo where you're not quite anywhere, just waiting for the next chapter to start. That's where this story really kicks off. Now, if you were there, you'd see this woman in first class, Catherine, beautiful and fragile, very pregnant, trying to play it cool for her husband, Richard. They've been through a lot to get here, 3 miscarriages, years of heartbreak, so this baby feels almost too precious to be real. Richard is the type of guy who can buy solutions to almost any problem, except the one that's about to show up at 35,000 feet, out of reach of all his usual safety nets. It starts small. Catherine's shifting around in her fancy seat, pressing her hand to her chest, saying she just needs a little water, nothing to worry about. But when she gasps for air, lips turning blue, panic rolls through that luxury cabin like a tidal wave flight, attendants racing, Richard losing his calm. He's shouting for a doctor, for anyone to help, but no one in first or business class even pretends to know what to do. The Real help is sitting 3 rows back in economy. So far off Richard's radar, it's almost funny. Elijah Williams, 17, skinny, black, in an old hoodie, eyes sharp with something you'd almost call hope if you didn't know better. You know what I mean? Nobody expects a kid like Elijah to be the answer. People pass right by him, security guards, mothers with kids, even the flight crew when they're desperate for a hero. But Elijah spent half his life learning how to keep someone alive. His grandmother, Beatrice, has been fighting for every breath she's got, and Elijah knows the symptoms of a pulmonary embolism like he knows his own heartbeat. He knows the pain, the panic, the helplessness, and the way the world treats you like furniture until you prove you belong. And that's the twist, right there, our lifetime of being invisible, until the moment the whole plane is forced to see him. Richard's ready to promise anything for Catherine's life, but all he can do is watch as this teenage boy steps forward, voice steady even though his hands are shaking. I think she's got a blood clot, Elijah says. I've seen it before. The flight attendant hesitates. The world's suddenly off-balance. Cito, you trust the rich guy in the suit or the kid in row 34B? It's not even close, really. Elijah rattles off the protocol oxygen, aspirin, elevate her legs like he's done 100 times, and maybe in a way, he has. And you'd better believe the whole cabin is watching now. Some people rooting for him, others ready to blame him if anything goes wrong. So the plane diverts to Iceland, adrenaline thick in the air. Catherine stable, but barely. The baby's heart racing, everyone on edge. At the hospital, Richard's world shrinks down to a vending machine coffee cup and the weight of everything he almost lost. Elijah stays up all night, not because he has to, but because that's what his grandmother taught him. Real care doesn't clock out when things get tough. He misses the one shot he had at his future, that interview in London for a scholarship program only 50 kids worldwide get into, the ticket out for him and his grandmother. Gone, just like that, and he barely mentions it. You'd expect Richard to throw money at the problem, and he tries business card, blank check, promises of introductions. But when he asks Elijah what he wants in return, the answer isn't what anyone expected. Not for me. Elijah says, help my grandma. Or better yet, help my whole neighborhood. It's not just us who can't get care. The system doesn't work for people like us. It hits Richard hard because he's built his legacy on big donations overseas, on gala dinners and foundation plaques, never once stopping to see what was happening in the city right below his penthouse window. That's the real gut punch, the moment where you realize everything you thought you knew about right and wrong, debt and gratitude, is upside down. Elijah's not asking for a handouths, asking for justice, for dignity, for a seat at the table for people like his grandmother, like all the other folks fighting invisible battles every day. Here's where the story flips again. Richard and Catherine go to Harlem, stepping into Elijah's world. They meet Beatrice, who's got more steel in her spine than most CEOs. She calls it straight, wants to know what Richard's really planning, what he's willing to risk, and she makes him promise to actually listen, not just hand out charity and disappear. The conversation at her kitchen table is real, a clash of worlds, but also the start of something bigger, a plan to fund a real community health center, with Elijah as a paid advisor, his tuition covered, his grandmother finally getting the care she needs. And it's not all clean lines and happy endings, either. There's tension, suspicion, the weight of a lifetime of being overlooked. Elijah only agrees if the project puts the community first, no more outsiders sweeping in and calling the shots. Richard, for the first time, lets himself be the student, not the boss. There's something beautiful about that, about watching a man unlearn what he thought made him important. By the time the Harringtons leave that Harlem apartment, it's clear this isn't just about one family's redemption. It's about a shift, a crack in the wall that kept worlds apart. Elijah gives Richard a gift money can't be a chance to see, really see, the people he's been blind to. And in return, Richard gives Elijah's community what it's always deserved, a shot at health, at hope, at respect. Fast forward 6 months, the community health center is open. Elijah's name on the door, Beatrice's wisdom on the plaque. Catherine has her baby, a little girl named Beatrice Elizabeth Harrington, and Elijah becomes her godfather. Family in a way none of them could have imagined back on that plane. Richard stands in the hospital room, watching the boy who saved his family cradle the newest member of theirs, and for the first time in his life, he feels like maybe, just maybe, he's finally gotten something right. You ever wonder what you'd ask for if you could have anything? Sometimes the most powerful request is the one that lifts everyone up, not just yourself. That's what Elijah died, changed more than one life that night. And maybe if enough people listen, the ripple keeps going. So what do you think? Where's the line between charity and justice? Between owing a debt and building a future? Would you have seen Elijah for who he was, or just another kid lost in the crowd? If this story made you feel something, made you angry, hopeful, or just a little more awake, drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, what does justice look like to you? And don't forget to share this story if you think the world could use a few more Elijahs. You never know whose life might change at 35,000 feet or right here, right now.